Welcome back, everyone, to IndyFest 2024. Our program will resume in just a couple of minutes. Thank you. If you'll take a moment and silence your devices at this time, we'd appreciate that.
Welcome back to IndyFest, everybody. We're in the home stretch, the afternoon session. We're going to start it off with a bang, although not as much of a bang as I was hoping, and I'll tell you about that in a second. I'm joined here by our amazing DC reporter, Gabby Birenbaum, is going to be doing several of the afternoon panels with me, and Captain Sam Brown, who is the Republican nominee for the U.S. Senate. By the way, before I start, and people should say this to you every time they start an interview, thank you for your service, sir, especially what you've been doing.
Thank you, John. Thanks for your support.
We had hoped to have a Senate debate here today, but Senator Rosen at first said she couldn't make it on the original date of IndyFest and then dodged us afterwards and declined to be here. It's very disappointing. It probably is very disappointing to Captain Brown as well, but we will excuse the analogy, soldier on. And so let me start, and then I'm going to let Gabby jump in. People who followed the Senate race know that you've lived in Nevada since 2018 or so. Mm-hmm. You moved here after living in Texas, ran for the state legislature. I think a lot of people wonder, maybe even especially people who like you and are probably going to vote for you, why did he start with the U.S. Senate? Why not get to know the state better, go to the legislature, experience that? Why didn't you start lower?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. John, have you met my wife yet?
I have not. She told you to run for the Senate? Is that what you're going to tell me?
Well, she challenged me to do what I could that would have the best impact, the highest impact. And look, I mean, here's the reality is, yes, I've been around politics. Yes, I ran for office a decade ago in Texas. My big conclusion of that was I really didn't want to run for office ever again. But I care about the direction our country is headed, and it was, I could be involved. Like I was a door knocker for Trump during 2020. I could be involved sort of on the periphery, but after seeing the policies of Joe Biden right out of the gate, when he went to the White House after being inaugurated. And he started signing executive orders. And I remember just watching kind of the news of that day. There was executive orders that were signed about the border, about our energy policy, even education. And I was just like, why is this the direction that he's going so fast? And it was kind of in those months after that my wife sort of challenged me. It's like, Sam, we've got a great life. We have both already served our country. but our country needs people who can stand up and lead on behalf of all of us, and that was where there was kind of what I would say maybe the highest need, and so that's where we jumped in.
Okay, Gabby?
To stay on the topic of the campaign, we've got, I'm sure, a lot of poll watchers, political junkies here. You're, in the public polling we see, polling behind former President Trump, right? And so when you're thinking about how do I make up that gap, bring Republican voters home, what sort of elements of the electorate do you think you're targeting, and why do you think they haven't come home for you yet in polling?
Yeah, so, polling's an interesting thing. By the way, anyone out here do polling professionally? One? Okay. Look, it's a fascinating thing, and it's kind of like watching the weatherman, right? Like, we all, get kind of amped up and hyped about, what the weatherman says, just like polls, and at the end of the day, oftentimes the weather is quite a bit different than what they project, and the actual results are quite a bit different. So I don't get too wrapped around the axle on what polling says. What I'm looking at is kind of some trends, and I can tell you that, one of the things that in studying campaigns and kind of politics here over a couple of cycles that I thought that Republicans had sort of left some meat on the bone was with Hispanic voters. And I would say what I have seen in the past is kind of a check the box effort on outreach with folks who really want to build a relationship. And so that's one of the things that we've really, I've pursued hard. I've put a big emphasis on. I've had my campaign put a big emphasis. And we started advertising even in Spanish, this past summer, which was very early for, a typical campaign here in Nevada. And we've seen a lot of progress there. We've really kind of, in our polling, we've seen things flip, where I'm now leading in a segment that I was losing. At the end of the day,
Are you just polling your household, or where are you getting those numbers from?
yeah, I finally got my wife on board.
There you go.
No, but look, at the end of the day, here's sort of my view. I'm going to pull back the curtain a little bit. Here's my view on politics, especially in a purple state. I mean, could it be any closer in terms of voter registration than it is right now? And we have this large segment, about 40% of the state, that kind of says, well, we don't really identify with the Democrats or Republicans. And so what I have attempted to do is to be a candidate for kind of everybody. And knowing that, we can disagree on certain topics, and that's fine, but on the big picture things, we can all kind of head the same direction. And so my campaign has been about trying to make an appeal to folks that let's find those things that we do have common ground on and can be aligned with, and let's win elections that way.
When you're looking at Latino voters, and this came up in the debate, do you worry at all that when the former president says, we're going to have the most massive deportation operation in American history, does that undermine the bridges you're trying to build, or how do you think about it?
Look, I mean, when I talk to a lot of folks here, they're very, very concerned about the border. It's a very common theme. We need to secure the border. What has been done in these past 4 years. And again, we go back to this was a day one priority for President Biden. We know Vice President Harris became the border czar. He delegated certain sort of oversight, planning, strategic initiatives to Vice President Harris. We have Congress that has kind of gone along with the opening up of the border, the removing or remain in Mexico type policy, allowing for so many asylum seekers. Senator Rosen sits on Homeland Security Committee, should have really good oversight on what's going on there. And if there was a problem or something that she disagreed with, is in a position to kind of wave a hand and say, hey, hold on, I don't necessarily agree with this. This isn't good for Nevada. This isn't good for America. And really hasn't done that in 4 years. And so when we get to where we are now, when I talk to Hispanic voters, they're like saying, we have got to secure the border. This has not been good for our community. It's not good for our state. It's not good for our country. And so I actually run into a lot of folks who are very frustrated by the border policy of this administration. And that's something that we've got to start with is secure the border, confront the cartel. Look, the cartel, think about it this way. And there's terrorist organizations all around the world. But we have about 100,000 Americans dying each year from fentanyl or other, drug opioid overdoses that are largely coming through our southern border. Like, why are we not being more aggressive to confront that? We need to see a return to a United States that is a leader in strength, whether it's at our border or projecting that strength globally.
The real truth, though, is, even though you just brought up the Homeland Security chairmanship, or that she's on there, is that you've had trouble running against Jacky Rosen, and so you really act like you're running against Joe Biden or Kamala Harris instead, because they have much worse numbers than Jacky Rosen, and you've just been struggling to find. I mean, Captain Brown, you call her a multimillionaire. I thought Republicans liked multimillionaires. I mean, you've had trouble finding things to run against her, so you focused on Biden and Harris. Isn't that right? You can be honest here.
No, I mean, look, they're a package deal. That's the way that they've kind of run, is that, they.
I don't hear her mention Biden and Harris a lot.
Well,
Do you?
I wonder why.
Yeah, well, that's my point.
But no, look, it's one of the things that, if we're gonna call it what it is, Senator Rosen is hiding behind a lot of dollars that she has raised.
Jealous?
I would love to have raised more dollars.
Yeah.
I would love to have raised more dollars. But no, here's the reality. She's had about $80 million spent to create this positive image of who she has been over these past 4 years. And we've had, I think it's $11 million spent just to negatively define me. In fact, I'll tell you here's a little inside tidbit from last night. Nobody knows. Well, 2 people know, and maybe an audio tech somewhere. We get Senator Rosen and I have the debate last night. We both get to the studio, into the set about 6 minutes before everything goes live. And I go around, I kind of thank the crew and stuff. I get to my podium, shake Senator Rosen's hand, and I took a moment and I just kind of turned to her and I said, Senator Rosen, I just got to tell you, I don't appreciate that you have spent millions of dollars to lie about me. And I kind of turned back and I was taking some notes on my podium, and she waited about 7 seconds and then turned and looked at me and said, that's a really shitty thing to say. And I just looked at her and I'm sitting there thinking, no, the shitty thing is when you will knowingly lie about a political opponent and spend millions of dollars to deceive voters on my positions or who I am. And I asked her, though, I said, is that sort of language common on the Senate floor? Is that part of Senate decorum? And she had no response. But
This conversation really took place.
no, seriously, 6 minutes before we went live, this conversation took place. I mean, KLAS probably, some audio tech probably has it on roll. I mean, they released the tapes. It's out.
We have a limited amount of time. I want Gabby to jump in again with some questions.
Okay.
Sure, to talk about the Senate a bit. If you're elected, right, you're a junior senator. It can be hard to make an impact, especially in those first 2 years. What committees would you want to sit on, and what sort of issue? A lot of times, a junior senator, they're focusing a lot on their state. They're doing constituent services. They're engaging in bills. Sometimes with Nevada, it can be a land bill. Sometimes it's we want to rename a cemetery or something. What are some of the Nevada specific things you'd want to focus on, and then the committees you'd want to sit on?
So I'll start with committees. Energy and natural resources would be my number 1 priority. A lot of people assume armed services because of my military background. That would be my number 2 priority. And then after that, probably commerce. Now, I'm still not exactly clear on how you get onto those committees, but those, I've been having conversations with the ranking members of those committees so far. In terms of priorities, and I think you're right, starting out with doing something that is good for the state is important. A lands bill has got to be one of our top priorities. And I've been already beating the drum with senior Republican members of the Senate already. In fact, you've got Senator John Cornyn and Senator John Thune are 2 of the folks running to be the next Republican Senate leader. I have already brought this up as an issue to both of them, and they have both visited me out here on the campaign trail, and I've made it a very strong point to them, and they've heard also from Nevadans who we're meeting with on why it's such an important issue. So that would be one of them. Another issue that came up in the debate last night, though, is water. And I think one of the differences between the way that Senator Rosen has addressed it versus me is, in her response on water last night was, well, we just need to make sure that we're doing more to conserve more and use water more smartly. It was sort of like, hey, let's have everybody in Nevadans do more to use less. And like, we've got to celebrate the fact that Nevada has done an incredible job of being a leader in conserving water. I mean, if there was an award for best conservation of water, like, we would get it. What we really need to do is we need to have a senator who's willing to say, no, this is such an important issue, not only to our state, but to the entire Western region, that California cannot get away with its improper use of water, its flagrant use and waste of water. And they have the largest share. If we need to get someone in the federal delegation to go put pressure on California to start conserving in a way that we have, then that's what we need to do, and that's what I would pledge to do. And so water would be an important issue that I'd want to tackle as well.
Nevada has a long history, often, of senators of two different parties who come together on these Nevada-specific priorities. A lands bill would be one of them, right? Famously, Senator Ensign and Senator Reed works really closely on those. They're often, keeping something about mining in or out of a bill, gaming, what have you. Mm-hmm. If you were elected, you'd have to have that relationship with Senator Cortez Masto. You tried to run against her, right, last cycle. How would you approach that? And is that bipartisanship is something Senator Rosen talks about often on the trail? I don't hear you bring it up as much. Is that something that you're interested in pursuing?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, I don't have to wear it on my sleeve. The reality is Senator Cortez Masto and I have each other's phone numbers. I actually texted her after the debate last night. I look forward to being able to work cooperatively in a bipartisan way with Senator Cortez Masto. So look, we need more of that, frankly, across the country. We've done this bit where we've had the ultra polarization. Let's have a little bit more cooperation, and when we have senators or members of Congress who are focused on working on behalf of their state more than they are focused on working on behalf of a party, then I think we'll have good results.
Can you, since you mentioned this conversation that you had with Senator Rosen before the debate began, tell me a lie that she's told about you?
Can anyone think of a lie that she's told about me?
Come on, none of that. Hey, Captain, do you need help?
No. I mean,
I want you to answer.
John, seriously. But all right, is this for kind of fun, or do you really not know lies that she's told about me?
I asked you the question. Tell me lies that she's told about.
All right. So she lies on my position on abortion. She has said over and over again that Sam Brown will vote for a national abortion ban. I have never said that I would vote for a national abortion ban. In fact, I've said quite the opposite. I have said that I would not vote for a national abortion ban. Let me tell you another inside story. The first time I met Senator Lindsey Graham, literally the first time I met him, and we all know he authored the national abortion ban bill for 15 weeks. When I met with him, one of the first things I told him, I said, Senator Graham, with all due respect, if you bring a bill like that to the Senate when I'm a colleague of yours, I will not vote for that. And so I have been very, very clear on that, and yet she says it over and over and over again.
But the truth is that one of the reasons, in my opinion, that you're behind in this race is because she has hit you on your position, or should I say positions, on abortion from day one, or other groups have. You have changed your position, Captain Brown, from when you were in Texas. There's also audio that exists of things that you said, and then you came, all due respect, to the Adam Laxalt realization, oh my God, this is a pro-choice state, they have a pro-choice statute, the voters have decided. So you seem to have had a campaign conversion on this. Whether or not you've ever said you would support a federal abortion ban, you have changed your position.
No, John, look.
You haven't changed your position.
No, my position has been that the states ought to be able to dictate what the law is. And here in Nevada, it has clearly been stated and by the people 34 years ago that women have access to abortion up to 24 weeks, and for exceptions of rape, incest, and threat to the life of a mother. And I have,
Which you were against in Texas, right? You said you were against those exceptions.
no, I didn't.
You never said
No,
that.
I didn't say that.
Okay.
But anyway, so I support the vote of the people. That's what I thought was, what Dobbs' decision did was it allowed for the states to be able to sort of regain that position and that authority. And so that's my position. But again, that's one of the other things that was disappointing, and why I made the comment to Senator Rosen last night was, like, we don't need to deceive people on an issue, especially an issue so personal. We need to do more to support women who find themselves in a really tough situation. And that's what I think we need to focus on. It's like the law here in Nevada is clear and settled. Let's focus on how do we support women either as they're approaching that decision or after they either decide to carry a baby full term or have an abortion. That's what we need to focus on. But another lie that she has mentioned is that I would do anything to threaten Medicare or Social Security. I mean, it's a bald-faced lie. And
Don't Democrats always say that about Republicans, though?
well, it seems that they do, but it doesn't excuse it. It doesn't excuse it because there are people who are dependent on Social Security and Medicare. I have met multiple people on this campaign trail who collect Social Security benefits and are now having to work part-time jobs, or in some cases full-time jobs, because they can't make ends meet anymore, and they should be retired, or they were retired going into this last 4 years, and they've had to leave retirement because they can't make ends meet anymore. And so when you take issues that are that personal to someone and you will lie, it doesn't excuse the fact that Democrats have done that for years. Don't do that. That
I
is
wasn't making
abusive.
excuses, by the way. I was just giving context.
I know, but it's personal because as someone, there was this brief period of time after I was medically retired, before I was medically retired, but I wasn't yet quite ready to go back into the professional workforce, that I was a recipient of Social Security benefits, and I was on Medicare for my health care. And so for someone to say that Sam would threaten that when I know just how important that is at those vulnerable points of your life, it's really disappointing.
Okay, well, we have less than 10 minutes left. I want Gabby to jump in again.
On the topic of Medicare, I think one thing that has come up, if you're in the Senate and Republicans, have the majority and they have a vote, should we rescind the ability that, Democrats passed of Medicare to negotiate the price of certain drugs? You're voting how?
Yeah, I mean, I think we should always negotiate for the price of drugs. I mean, here's one of the things that you don't hear many people talk about is, why is it that other countries are negotiating with the pharmaceutical companies to get cheaper prices of drugs than we are? At the end of the day, Americans are subsidizing the cheaper drugs, the same drugs, but cheaper to other countries because, well, I don't know, our politicians or our insurance companies think, well, Americans can afford it? That's not right. So absolutely, I'd be in favor of negotiating a cheaper, price of drugs. But here's one of the other things, if you want to kind of get back to the politics of the campaign is, Senator Rosen has hundreds of thousands of dollars of big pharma stock. She has literally profited as the price of drugs have gone up, and yet she wants to, pretend to be a champion for people who need lower cost drugs. It's one of those things that you only find in the reality of DC.
To ask another Senate question, you talked about wanting to be on ENR, Energy and Natural Resources. This came up at the debate last night as well. You talked about frustration over bills like the Inflation Reduction Act that Democrats passed that you said sort of favored clean energy, gave tons of subsidies to various clean energy companies. That's brought a lot of money to Nevada, right? Nevada has a significant lithium industry, geothermal, solar. Nevada doesn't have, right, oil and gas resources. I'm sure you're talking about nationally, you think that this has, contributed to prices, but when you think about those industries in Nevada, is that something that you'd want to rescind some of those funds that are unspent, or how do you think about the existing clean energy industries in Nevada?
All right, let's talk about a couple of things here. One is, like, if we're going to use this measure, the dollars brought back to a state are good. And let's just say that in general, right? Like, you typically want to see dollars come back to the state. Let's not even talk about how the Inflation Reduction Act was part of an inflationary spending bill. Well, just in general, we want dollars to come back to the state because it's good for the state. If you look at the per capita spend that we got 1/3 of what a national per capita dollars back in the state would have been. So it's like, again, it's this sort of insider DC game for Senator Rosen to go to DC, vote on these spending bills, and then come back and want us to be like giving her high fives and saying, what a great job you've done to bring dollars back in the state, when she brought back 1/3 of what a per capita distribution should have been. Now, to the projects. What I don't want to see is that we continue to pile into like this really severe push for more solar projects or wind projects that over time are enriching like manufacturers in other countries. Like a lot of the solar material is coming out of China, and that they don't pencil out. By the way, the Bureau of Land Management has opened up 12 million acres here in Nevada for solar projects. Now look, this is getting personal, this is less political, but our family is like a very avid outdoors family. I don't want to see 12 million acres covered with solar panels or highly reflective metals. Like that's going to destroy part of the beauty and the thing that makes Nevada attractive are those sorts of projects. I want to see, we're going to have a major problem around enough energy production and power production in this country, especially as we have more EVs, as we have AI, as we have more data centers needing to be powered. These are really serious problems, and I don't think that a heavy emphasis and push into the renewable side is the right way to approach it.
All right, we're almost out of time. I have to ask you about this since it's come up again lately nationally, and it's, in my opinion, a very important issue. Shouldn't have to be asked, but I got to ask you. Is Joe Biden the duly elected president of the United States?
Of course he is the duly elected president.
Was he fairly elected?
John, I actually answered this question for the first time pre-primary in 22. Yes, he is the duly elected, he is the rightful president.
You said Adam Laxalt didn't do enough to protest the election here.
Is that what I said?
Yeah, I looked it up.
Is that a quote, John?
It said, when President Trump, you didn't think I'd bring the quote, did you? No, when President Trump, Nevadans, and Americans were relying on you to be the one to challenge any sort of issues in the 2020 election, the only thing you did was file a lawsuit that, by your own admission, was late. So there's two things right there, since you asked for the quote, sir. One is that the people were asking him to do something, implying that there was fraud in the election, which there's no evidence of. What else did you expect him to do?
Well, John, the proper way to interpret that is...
Oh, here we go, okay.
Mr. Laxalt was self-appointed or asked by others to be the one to look into it, and if there was something there that was challenge-worthy, to go help be a part of leading that challenge.
You think there was something there?
I don't know.
There's no evidence.
I don't know that there was.
So you don't know. So you think the election was...
So my point in that was, Mr. Laxalt, if there was something worth challenging, failed to even do it on time. That was my critique.
All right. Well, we are out of time. You know what I really wish? I wish that Senator Rosen were here so you could confront her and vice versa. I wish that it happened. This is the best that we could do. And you are a man of your word. You said way back when that you would come and be here, and you haven't, and we really appreciate it. Good luck in November.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Gabby. And look, it's not too late for KLAS to release the tapes on that if you want to hear about the rest of that conversation.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you all.
Thanks.